Welcome back to Two Brits One Box. If you've been following along, then last week we left Baja and entered the States. But before we continue our journey up north, this week's episode we will actually be guiding you through our 4 weeks that we spent in California, where we were prior to heading to Joshua Tree, Arizona, and then eventually Baja. When we came to editing this part of our travels, unfortunately the recent LA fires had started, and so to show respect we held off releasing the video. But now we hope you can enjoy the sights and all their beauty as we saw them. After crossing the border from Canada, we drove with our truck and trailer in tow, straight through Washington and Oregon to arrive at the California coast. One of our stops was at Fort Baker, overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge. We had actually visited San Francisco before when we stayed central in a hotel, but this time it was such a better experience without the hustle and bustle of the city and such beautiful views. Here we're stood in Horseshoe Cove waterfront, which is where they have a fishing pier with fish cleaning station and benches. There's also a launch site for kayaking, sailing and sculling. There's great views of the coastal fog in the mornings, and stay tuned to see the sunset over Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, this part. This was like right up here.
You can also see the famous Alcatraz Island. So Fort Baker was actually previously named Lime Point Military Reservation, but it was renamed to Fort Baker in 1897. It served as an army base until the mid-1990s, when the headquarters of the 91st Division moved to a new training area. It was originally named after Edward Dickinson Baker, a former US Senator for Oregon who was active in Californian politics in the 1850s, but Baker lost his life whilst leading a regiment of Union troops in the Civil War. The scenic army post played a key role in the defense of San Francisco Bay for more than a century. In 1866, the US Army acquired the site for a base to fortify the north side of Golden Gate. The post remained active through World War II, and in 1973, Fort Baker was listed as a historic district in the National Register of Historic Places. But when the Golden Gate National Parks were established in 1972, Fort Baker was designated to be transferred to the National Park Service when no longer needed by the military. So in 2002, it transferred officially from post to park. sure if we could stay in our rig overnight at this location, so we headed down the road for the night to get a good night's sleep. We decided that the next morning to pay the toll to cross the Golden Gate Bridge, seeing as it's such an iconic landmark. As the trailer has dual axle, the fees were extortionate for a 2-minute journey. Nonetheless, we did it anyway, and now we can say that we drove over the Golden Gate Bridge. Driving along the bridge really made us realise how amazing and grand that this piece of engineering really is. We came across this bone on the beach. We assume it is a whale bone, but if anyone watching this knows any more information, then I'd love to know. It's absolutely amazing how big it was, and it really put things in perspective of how big they are. On this particular morning, we went to Moss Landing State Beach, and I was over the moon. Otters are my favourite animal, and I'd never actually seen one in the wild until now. And this little guy was just cracking his shells on the rocks, having a little munch for his lunch, and just chilling. And did you know that the California sea otter is actually an endangered species? He knew we were there and he kept an eye on us. But while I was watching him, even more wildlife came out to play. I really hope you get as much enjoyment watching this little fella as much as I did. Moss Landing is very popular with the birdwatching community, and the type and number of birds can vary by season. There's a major roost for brown pelicans, but there are also sea ducks, loons, gulls, and many more. They can all be spotted here. The beach itself is about 16 miles north from the city of Monterey and about 5 miles from Watsonville, which is where we were heading next. reached Watsonville, we had a break from the RV, as we stayed in a house sit for a few days looking after this good doggo. We hopped on a couple of bikes and explored the beaches around us. Our first stop was Capitola on our bikes, and it was a beautiful little town. Just bear in mind that we were there in off-season, so it does look a little dead right now. It had a really good high street and a beautiful beach. This is SS Palo Alto, who was launched on 29th of May 1919, but was too late to see service in the war. She was mothballed in Oakland until 1929 and then bought to Sea Cliff Amusement Corporation. A pier was built leading to the ship in 1930, and she was beached in a few feet of water so that her keel rested on the bottom. There, she was refitted as an amusement ship with amenities including a dance floor, swimming pool, and cafe. But the company went bankrupt 2 years later during the Great Depression, and the ship cracked at midsection during the winter storm. Eventually, she deteriorated to the point where she was unsafe for purpose and was closed to the public in 1950. They did attempt to restore her in the 1980s, and since then, many other attempts have been made. She is nicknamed the Cement Ship and is now an artificial reef for marine life. boardwalk in Santa Cruz not only had great views of the beach, but it looked like it would be so much fun if we were there not during off-season. But it was a beautiful day and we managed to walk around and see the amusements that were still open.
I think that's how I ended up with this paradise. So, how about you? That's it. Musket flying over your head now. Come on, baby. Make
While exploring Monterey, we checked out their local market and explored the Fisherman's Wharf. It was a lot busier than I thought it would be compared to the other places we've been so far, but I guess this is the place to be when it's the lead up to Christmas. Carmel was recommended by so many people, so we went there, parked up and explored its beautiful sandy beach. Carmel-By-The-Sea is actually only 1 square mile, and it feels like a fairy tale village. It's only a small village, but there's so much going on with wine tasting, boutique shops, restaurants, art galleries, you name it, they've got it. After looking around the town, we of course returned to the beach for sunset, and I'm pleased to say it definitely lived up to its name. After all that fresh sea air, we slept so well, and the next morning we got up and headed towards Pismo Beach. We had plenty of time, so we took advantage and stopped off at some of the spots along the way. So for those of you who don't know what this is, and I didn't at first, I was so amazed by them. They're called sand dollars. If you see them along the shoreline and they're still purple, when you turn them upside down, you'll see what looks like hair. That's actually how they move across the sand, and you have to leave them on the beach as they are still alive. The next morning we needed to be in Santa Barbara, and we found this beautiful viewpoint to stay for the night, which overlooked the city. Next day we drove down, parked up the trailer, and got to look after this wonderful doggo for a few days. Such a good pup, and absolutely loved the walks. Santa Barbara is such a beautiful city, and we were so lucky to be able to meet my dad's cousin Mary and her husband Richard for the first ever time. If you're watching this, thank you so much for coming all the way from LA to see us, and it was so good to finally put a face to a name. After exploring, we hitched up the trailer and started heading towards Los Angeles. Once we were here, we were able to meet my dad's cousin and her husband again in their home for dinner. I was walking through Venice Beach. Of course, we had to check out the popular gym, as we'd only seen it in the movies. And as mentioned before, it was off season, but I can only imagine how busy it gets in the summer. On our way towards Palm Springs, we passed through Beverly Hills and West Hollywood. Of course, we had to see the famous Walk of Fame, but unfortunately the weather wasn't quite on our side, and as we had our trailer in tow, it was actually really hard to find somewhere to park up, but at least we got to drive through it. Get a tiny glimpse of the Hollywood sign before it started raining again. After hauling through the city, we left Hollywood and started heading towards Palm Springs. This fascinating geological feature, which is rich in history, lies between Whitewater and Palm Springs. The rocky formation was actually formed at the bottom of a prehistoric tropical sea over 250 million years ago. So this place was actually recommended to us for breakfast, and it did not disappoint. The food was so good, and the little courtyard that you sit out in feels like a French style courtyard. It's just absolutely lovely with all the flowers. Highly recommend if you can go. After our night in Palm Springs, we continue to drive towards Joshua Tree National Park. The video for this and the video for Arizona, which was the next stop, is already uploaded and you can find it in our USA playlist. I'll also put a link below. And as always, thank you so much for watching and tuning in. I hope you're enjoying our videos, and if you are, then I please ask you to like, share, comment and interact with our channel as much as you can so we can continue doing what we love, allowing us to share it with you. So that's all for today, and we will see you next week.